Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm glad to have you. If you're coming back, it's good to see you again. Let's talk about shifts, shift work, what shift you like the best, the pros and cons of different shifts that we work in general from a nursing standpoint or even a CNA standpoint. And if you like what you see here and you want to see more and you want more tips and tricks or you have more suggestions, then I ask that you like, subscribe, and follow for more. So I have worked all 3 shifts as a nurse and 2 shifts as a CNA. I will say that I preferred working night shift as a CNA in general because I've worked evening shift as a CNA. I have picked up on days as a CNA many years ago, and day shift, I have to say that that's the hardest shift to work as far as like physical labor. And the reason is because when you work day shift, you're getting people in and out of bed more than once. And if you work 12-hour shifts, for example, you might be getting people up for 3 meals and you're putting them back to bed and doing all their cares all day. Whereas when you work night shift, you're generally focused on turning and repositioning and rounding on your patients, in addition to some chores that you do at night, like washing wheelchairs, tidying up rooms, that sort of thing. I know that that's still an expectation of CNAs because I have been a nurse for many years and worked in long-term care. I couldn't tell you about hospitals because I have personally never worked in a hospital. So I don't know what CNAs do in hospitals, and I only have an inkling of an idea of what nurses do in hospitals based on going in as a hospice nurse and going in as an admissions nurse and doing assessments, just coming in as a guest, not really working the floor in a hospital. The last time I worked the floor in a hospital was during clinicals years ago. What I can tell you is that as a CNA working night shift, I preferred that because all of the managers aren't there. The families aren't coming in and out. Physical therapy isn't there taking them to their appointments. They're not going out of the building. You can do your job at night, pretty much. You can do your job at night, pretty much. What I will say is that people don't sleep at night necessarily. It seems like that's when wilding out starts happening. That's when people get crazy, is at night. They don't sleep good at night. And one of the things that you have to consider when you're thinking about night shift is that you're taking care of people who may have worked night shift for years and they sleep better during the day. We have a tendency to try to keep people awake during the day and put them on our own schedules, but maybe they worked night shift for 50 years and they're not going to sleep at night. They're going to sleep during the day because that's their routine, and they're not going to follow what we want them to do just because they're now in our facility, because this is their home, right? But I will say that's when most of the falls happen. That's when you're working with less people. You are working with a skeleton crew at night. The nurse to patient ratio is higher. The CNA to patient ratio is significantly higher because they're supposed to be sleeping, right? And state says this is how many CNAs you can have for this many patients. Is it realistic? Not usually. Not usually. I think people get away with the minimum amount of staff for the job that needs to be done a lot of times, and there's a lot of times that the staff just isn't available and you can't pull nurses out of thin air or CNAs. You just can't do it. The drawbacks to working day shift, again, is that you have to do at least 2 meals. You're getting people in bed, out of bed, in bed, out of bed. You're getting them in and out of bed several times. You're working around PT, OT, ST. You're working around doctor's appointments, family visits, and there's expectations. And sometimes it's hard to catch someone for a shower in the time frame that they would expect to take a shower. Some people want to shower first thing in the morning. Some people do not want you to come in and wake them up and shower them at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning. And that becomes a struggle. So in my opinion, from my standpoint, night shift was the best shift I worked as a CNA. As a nurse, I feel like I like day shift better. I worked night shift as a nurse for many years. I worked evening shift. I love evening shift for one reason only. If you don't have little kids and you're a single person, evening shift is great for you because you can sleep in the morning. You can go do exercise before work if you want to. I think I was the healthiest when I worked evening shift because I had time to make my meals, pre-plan things. I wasn't rushing around in the morning. The drawback to evening shift is if you have a family, it really cuts into that time that you get to spend with your family. Night shift as a nurse is hard. because, again, the patients aren't sleeping. There's a lot of behaviors on night shift, and you're working with less staff. So if something crazy is happening, you have less people in the building to help you, and you don't have management in the building. So that is a drawback as a nurse if you have an emergency or you have a need or something goes haywire at night, because you are it. As the nurse, you're the adult in the building. Why I love day shift as a nurse is because the managers are there, the families are coming in. It just seems to go faster. It's a faster pace and the day gets over faster. The drawbacks is that you really got to work to get things done on time. And again, you're working around PT, OT, ST. The beauty of evening shift that I find, I suppose I like evening shift from a standpoint of if you don't have people at home waiting for you. I did work evening shift a lot. I did it when my son was little too, and I feel like I missed out on a lot of school functions from working evening shift and things that I had to request off in plenty of time in order to go to school functions, holiday things. I worked a lot of holidays. The beauty of working evening shift is that you can go enjoy a meal with your family before you go to work sometimes. But I would much prefer working day shift, even though I'm not a morning person. I do not like to wake up early. I sleep really good during the day. Night shift, working so many years as night shift person as a CNA and then as a nurse, really made it hard for me to adjust my schedule to day shift. And having a little child, a baby, made me a morning person. It made me a morning person, and now I can't sleep really past 7 o'clock. I try to say I'm going to sleep in, but I do not sleep past 7 o'clock. So day shift is best for me. I'm tired by 5 o'clock in the evening and I don't have any energy left, so I don't want to be working evenings. And I've tried to work night shifts a few times and I just can't stay awake anymore. Years ago, I loved night shift when I had kids at home because I could sleep while they were at school, and if something happened or they had a function or something, I could wake up a little early and maybe catch a little sleep right before I went to work, which was kind of challenging. But it gave you more availability during the daytime and the evening to spend time with your family if you have a family, because you could sleep during the day, and it worked really well for me. And I sleep really well during the day. But now I can't stay awake at night. I'm probably one of those people that's in bed by 10:30 if I can, because I'm tired by that time. I don't know if that's something that changes as we get older, if we just adapt to it. But day shift, the things that I love about day shift, again, you are better staffed during the day generally. You have more hands on deck. You have people available to help you if something crazy happens. Management will help you during the day if something crazy happens. There's families in the building. There's leadership in the building. There's all kinds of things happening, and sometimes there's regional in the building, corporate in the building, and people are on their best behavior when people are being watched. That's just a fact. It's just a fact. The beauty of evening shift is that it's one meal and then they go to bed. From a CNA standpoint, generally, it's one meal and they go to bed. So you're getting them ready for bed, you're brushing their teeth, and then you're rounding. Same thing for nurses, you're working around one meal. The challenge with evening shift as a nurse is that you need to have a good system for working that shift, because you need to come in, look at the labs that have been drawn in the morning, and report those labs to the doctor's office before they close, and try to get your med pass done in the time frame that you have to get it done in. So usually you work 2 to 10, 3 to 11. You have 1 hour on each side of your med pass to complete it. So basically you have from 2 to 4 to get your meds passed. If you come in at 2 to 10 and the meds are due at 3. Some meds are due at 4, some meds are due at 5. Meds are staggered sometimes, like eye drops and things like that. The challenge with working around meals in any shift is that you're not supposed to give medications in the dining room. You can't give insulins in the dining room. You can't take blood pressures in the dining room. So one thing that I like to do when I worked evening shift was come down the hall and grab all my vital signs, make sure my cart was stocked, and catch all my blood sugars and things like that before. So I would start my vital signs, grab all my blood sugars, go to the end of the hall, and come back and give all the insulins right before dinner. So I like to do it that way. And you have to develop a system when you're working any shift. You have to have a plan. You have to be organized when you're working in a facility, like a long-term care facility is the standpoint I'm coming from. When you work in a long-term care facility, you have to have a plan of action. You need to know, who are my people that have blood sugars? Who are the people I need to check blood pressures on? So it's a good idea to get your report, review your MAR for any changes. You need to look and see, were there any new orders? Did anything change while you were off since yesterday? Because things change. You can't assume that it's going to be the same way it was yesterday. So you need to have a plan for getting yourself together at the beginning of your shift and getting things together, making sure that you have the equipment you need, the supplies you need. And if you're like me, you probably have a list. I made myself a system, day shift, night shift, evening shift, anything. Of all the shifts, it didn't matter. I had a vitals list that I would make for myself. I had a list of blood sugars, and I had a paper with boxes on it in a grid with room numbers. And I would cross it off as I passed one med pass and make an X as I made the second med pass of the day. And I would put a slash through it whenever with a highlighter. I had a weird system, but it worked for me. It kept me organized. It kept me knowing, who did I see, who didn't I see, what blood sugars did I do, because inadvertently somebody's going to ask you for that number, and you're not going to be by your cart to look it up necessarily, or sometimes computers go down. I don't know, but technology is lovely. So I started in nursing with papers, but I ended with computers, and I will just tell you that I have seen in nursing and long-term care the improvements of charting and where we started from. We started with a few ClickBox assessments for Medicare patients, and we went to point click care, and Matrix, and different systems like that in long-term care. And unfortunately, computer batteries die, and everybody's system has its own special features, locked or unlocked. So what works in one building may not work in the building that you're in. The point is, have an organization system. When you start at the beginning of your shift, whether it's day shift, evening shift, or night shift, make a plan for yourself. Because when you work in a long-term care facility, you kind of can, but you also have to be prepared that your day's going to go to hell, because it might. You might have 2 falls and a person that needs to go to ER with chest pain. You might have to do CPR on your shift. There are so many things that can go wrong when you're taking care of 30 plus people on a unit. And sometimes you're splitting a unit with another nurse. I know in the evening shift when I worked, it was 2 nurses to 3 halls, whereas during the day shift, you had a nurse to every hall, and you had numerous CNAs. So what's your favorite shift? What things did you do to keep yourself organized when you were working on your shift? What things kept you going in a timely manner? How did you get your med pass done? Did you like working night shift? Did you like working day shift? Why? What were the pros and cons for you that made you choose what you're doing in your career now as a CNA, as a nurse, a healthcare worker? What were your pros and cons, and what were the things that made you do what you love to do? I'd love to hear about it more in the comments, so let's talk about it. And if you like what you see here, then I ask that you like, subscribe, and follow for more. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.